This is presidential candidate Dion D. Jenkins, the only black agenda priority candidate, the only reparations platform candidate. All right. I constructed a reparations package entitled DMLG, Defense Money Land Grants, dealing with the 4 elements of reparations, because there are 4 elements of reparations. And this package was constructed by using the 4 elements of American society, which is defensive structure, capital, land, and the access to capital. I'm doing a follow-up video to my last video, which basically exposed the fallacies of the ADOS acronym. And in the last video, I stated that the acronym wasn't specific enough. And I stated that the reason why it wasn't specific enough was because it did not specify the type of American and the type of slavery. The acronym American Descendants of Slavery does not specify which type of American and which type of slavery. And I need to elaborate on that a little bit more because I received too much pushback. So I made a conclusion that I did not elaborate on it good enough last time. All right. So I'm about to really go harder this time. So what you have to understand is that one of the first pushbacks I got was people were accusing me of not reading the ADOS 101 website, which is not true. I've read the website a few times. However, I would like to make a statement regarding that. Because let's say even if I didn't read the website, it wouldn't matter because you're dealing with legislation and litigation. If you make that acronym ADOS a classification for our group of people, that's going to be a legal binding. So your website is not going to trump a legal binding. So if your acronym isn't specific enough, you're going to leave room for outside groups to exploit that once resources are passed down. Okay. So another pushback I got was, well, immigrants didn't get here to the 1960s, so technically they're not American like we are. You're right and wrong. And I'm going to explain that. You're right. They shouldn't have any access to our lineage claim. But you're wrong about them being American. And they do have full access to American citizenship. And according to the 14th Amendment, which is a constitutional binding that states that if you're born in America, you are a United States citizen. All you have to do is be born here. It doesn't say that if you were born here in 1860 or 1960 or 1660, you still have equal access to American citizenship. All right. Now, far as the lineage claim, ADOS, which is an acronym, like I stated before, and we all know the acronym, American Descendants of Slavery. Yesterday, I gave 3 or 4 examples of why the lineage claim isn't specific enough. Well, I should say the acronym isn't specific enough. Regardless of what your website states, the acronym states that you are an American descendant of slavery. So let's break that down. The first letter, which is A, American. Well, I just stated, and we all know that according to the Constitution, the 14th Amendment gave American citizens who were born in this country full access to American citizenship. So anybody born in America is an American. You cannot argue that. Okay, those are facts. I'm not going to sit back and argue. We got to get away from emotional investments. We got to be logical. Now, I know that a lot of you guys, I should say, was rolling with this ADOS acronym for a long time. Matter of fact, a lot of you have a lot of emotional investments in it and financial investments in it and a whole lot of other investments in it. You know, some of you guys build infrastructure around it. Chapters were built, network opportunities were established, and all of that. So I understand. However, if we're going to get reparations, we have to get this right. So if you take the acronym, now back to the acronym. If you look at the acronym, the first letter says American. It doesn't specify what type of American. It says American. The last part of that acronym is DOS, Descendants of Slavery. Now, there are many types of slavery that happen around the world. Now, we all know about the diaspora, which happened in the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and North America. A lot of us also know about the Saudi Arabian slave trade that's going on to this day. So technically, if you are an American, if you are born in America, and if you could trace your lineage back to any one of those slaveries, you are technically ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. Now, your website state that a more specific claim of your lineage, you know, and there's some fallacies in that as well, but I'm gonna say that for another video. But your website is more specific with dealing with the lineage part, but the acronym isn't. So in the court of law, when dealing with litigation, the acronym have to be specific, and you're following a lawyer, your lawyer should know that. If anybody who should know the specification of words and how serious and prominent they are in the court of law and litigation is a lawyer. There are two occupations that are really, really precise with words: English teachers and lawyers. He should know this. So if you have an acronym that isn't specific, and if you establish legal documentation and a classification around an acronym that's not specific, you are wide open for exploitation by other groups. And other groups will use that once resources are being passed down, like they have before. So if I'm a white man or a white woman, and I have a great grandmother who was a descendant of American slaves, I could say, well, look, I'm ADOS because my grandmother was a descendant of American slaves. So I'm technically ADOS because I'm an American and I'm a descendant of slavery, because my grandmother was a descendant from slaves. She's a descendant of slavery, so that makes me that as well. See, the correct terminology should be blacks who descended from American slavery, because you classify that, you specify what type of American. You're black. What type of slavery? American slavery. But an even more specific term than that is blacks who descended from American slaves, because now you're dealing with specific people, right? And that's what you really want. So I suggest that everybody use the term blacks who descended from American slaves, because now you have the bloodline. Okay. Take away the slavery and put the slaves, and you have a bloodline connection. All right. However, blacks who descended from slaves is more specific than ADOS, because it specifies the type of people and the type of slavery. So if I'm a Jamaican or a Brazilian who's born in America, I could use the 14th Amendment. I could say, technically, I am an American according to the Constitution. And I could trace my lineage back to slavery outside of America, but it's still slavery. You can't argue that. Let's throw away the emotional investments and let's stay logical. All right. So with the term ADOS, we only going to get one shot at this. We got to do it right. I promise you, if you use that term ADOS, white folks are going to be able to take your reparations package, and they're going to prioritize white people. So which label are you more comfortable with? Let's be real. Let's sit back and I'm gonna ask you a question. If there was a legal binding placed on an acronym, which one would you rather? Blacks who descended from American slaves, which specifies you. That mean a white person can't say, yeah, I'm a black who descended from American slaves. No, you could easily tell him, no, you're not, because you're a white person. A Brazilian who's born in America can't use that term because he didn't descend from American slaves. Even if he classifies black, he didn't descend from American slaves. He descended from Brazilian slaves. An African who can trace his lineage back to the slave trade of Saudi Arabia, he could say, no, look, I'm a black man, but damn, I cannot trace my lineage back to American slavery, so that do not count me. You understand what I'm trying to say? So basically what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to ask you a question. Which label would you want? Blacks who descended from slaves? Blacks who descended from American slaves, I should say, or ADOS, American descendants of slavery? After I broke all that down, if there's a legal binding, which one would you be comfortable with? Just think about that for a second. You want to make this as specific as possible, so that way, when the resources are passed down, there's more for you and not enough for anybody else. There's no resources from your lineage claim, the work that your people put in, the inheritance that you have will not get co-opted by other groups. Now, I'm for Brazilians getting reparations, but they have to take it with their own government. I'm for Haitians getting reparations, but they have to take it with their own government. I'm for Native Americans, Africans, whoever, Haitians, but they have to take that up with their own government. And I do believe that it should be a worldwide movement. And if it was a worldwide movement, it'd be stronger. All right. But everybody have to take it with their own governments. All right. So that's pretty much all I'm saying. And we have to cast away the emotional investments. We have to think logically. If you cannot hear intellectual, respectful criticism, then this isn't for you. This political arena isn't for you in this way. Just sit back and vote. But you can't be part of the, we have to understand that if we want to get far, we have to cast away emotions, because we get tricked every generation. Every generation, we are so invested in emotionalism, and it drives us in the mud. We can't get nowhere with that. We have to stop that. So think about what I said. Think about the terminology blacks who descended from American slaves versus American descendants of slavery. If you had a choice to pick a certain litigation, if you had a choice to pick a certain classification that's going to become a legal binding, which one would you be more comfortable with? Let's be real. ADOS is not it. It's not it. I don't care how long you have been rolling with that. I don't care how much infrastructure you built with that. If you want to get reparations that's specific for your lineage, you better put blacks who descended from American slaves. It's Deion D. Jenkins, the presidential candidate with the only black agenda priority candidate. The only candidate with a black agenda and a reparations package. And I approve this message.